Okay, calm down.
And what about the de-dollarization issue?
Yes, I don't think it will take place overnight, but the fact that it's being raised by governments that represent, some say less than half, some say perhaps more than half of the world's population is quite significant. Because the United States, through its dollar, has been able to control and manipulate global finance through the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and other financial institutions, through the petroleum industry, their dominance. I think just the notion of moving away from reliance on the dollar as the international currency of choice is a threat to the United States hegemony. And as I said, perhaps it won't happen overnight. It may take years, it may even take decades. But if things continue the way they are right now, it could very well be a reality sooner than what we think.
And what kind of impact would that have, do you think?
Clearly, it would make the United States weaker economically. They would not be able to carry on what they do domestically as well as internationally. We can look right now and see that the deficit of the United States, and it's not talked about that much in the mainstream media or the corporate media, the deficit in this country is rising exponentially. A lot of it has to do with the inflation and also the Pentagon budget. Just think about the money that's being spent to continue the war in Ukraine. It's astronomical. And we had the Secretary of State who went to Ukraine a few days ago and pledged even more money and perhaps called for the resignation or the firing of the Minister of Defense in Ukraine. And perhaps he warned them about the continuing corruption that's going on vis-a-vis the supply of arms and military expenditures in Ukraine. There was an article even in the New York Times on Sunday talking about an arms dealer based in Florida who had in fact been indicted before about 15 years ago by the Attorney Generals of the United States, the Justice Department. And he's a key player in the purchase and supply of arms by the United States to Ukraine. Obviously, there's a lot of corruption that's going on. It continues to go on. And it's the taxpayers here in the United States that are paying those bills.
So BRICS went from being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to now Argentina, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and the Arab Republic of Egypt. So now it's like BRICS, it doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. But what are you most curious about, or what do you think will be the most interesting thing to come out of this expansion?
There's the new development bank that's headed by the former Brazilian president, Dilma Rousseff. And they are working very hard to try to build alternatives to the Western-dominated financial system. There's also other countries that are interested in joining BRICS. And it seems to be committed to economic development in what is called now the Global South, meaning Africa, Asia, South America, the Caribbean, the Asia Pacific, and in alliance with the Russian Federation, which is quite interesting as well, because the way the NATO countries are treating the Russian Federation, it is as if they are part of the Global South. They've excluded them, for example, from the G8. It used to be the G8. Now it's the G7 again. And they're engaging in an economic blockade of the Russian Federation. These are the same tactics that they've used against Cuba, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Iran, and many other countries, China. So it's quite interesting that they see Russia as part of the oppressed nations, the people who have historically been exploited and oppressed by Western Europe and North America.
Someone in the audience has a question. How would BRICS impact Ethiopia?
Well, Ethiopia has the third largest, perhaps the second largest population on the African continent. And there's been tremendous economic growth there over the last several years. They have built a grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project, which is being opposed by neighboring Egypt and possibly even Sudan because of it will control the flow of water in the Nile, the Blue Nile in particular. So I think Ethiopia joining the BRICS summit will be a big boost to its economy and the economy throughout the entire Horn of Africa region. And it was interesting, beginning in 2020, that there was an insurgency that erupted in the northern part of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, led by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which used to be the dominant group in the country for almost 30 years. Now, they were displaced as a result of a popular uprising in 2008. And that is how the current Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, came to power. And he was able to mobilize Ethiopia to defeat this insurgency, which in fact was backed by the US. It was clear they wanted to overthrow the Ethiopian government after 2020. They were not able to do so. The African Union intervened at the aegis of South Africa as well as Kenya to negotiate a peace agreement between the TPLF and the government, the Prosperity Party government in Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is not perfect at this time, but it is moving towards a more prosperous and a more stable country and region.